Hello and welcome again. Thank you for tuning into this episode. I hope you will find it instructive and even helpful as you move forward in your grief journey. Now, I created this episode to introduce you to and explain the relationship between the state of grieving, what you're going through now, and the difference between that and experiencing post-traumatic symptoms. First, let me define trauma, okay? Let's keep it simple for our purposes here. Try to think of trauma as any event or series of events that may cause you to experience physical or psychological pain. Yeah, just that simple. That's not scientific, but it is on track. In other words, any painful experience could be considered traumatic. But most minor traumas will not result in having post-traumatic symptoms. I will also add here that if you do have some trauma-related symptoms, that doesn't necessarily mean that you should be diagnosed with PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder. PTSD is a very specific and often severely impairing mental disorder. You see, when a grieving person has been moderately or severely traumatized in relationship to a loved one's death, they sometimes experience post-traumatic symptoms in addition to the many other natural and normal symptoms they experience when grieving. Let's take a moment to consider what some post-traumatic symptoms might be. You might find that you are easily startled or frightened. You may find yourself being highly vigilant about or focused on potential or even unlikely dangers. You might experience intrusive, unwanted thoughts or images, or even flashbacks of traumatic scenes. You might be disturbed by nightmares, or you might even have an exaggerated sense of guilt and responsibility related to your loss. Most deaths, fortunately, aren't greatly traumatizing in and of themselves, though certainly some are. If your loved one died in a severely traumatic fashion, whether or not you were present, the impact of the trauma could definitely have some lasting post-traumatic symptoms, and those can be very debilitating over time. If you have such impairing symptoms, I would recommend that you reach out soon rather than later to see a mental health professional, for example, a psychiatrist, a psychologist, or any other licensed therapist, to debrief with you and perhaps provide some early intervention. Early preventional intervention of this type, it could reduce the severity and length of time you experience trauma symptoms, and by addressing a severely traumatic event early on, your overall grieving experience may also be aided to some extent. If your trauma symptoms are not severe nor really impairing to you, you may find that they will simply fade in time as you adjust and heal from your loss. I, as a therapist, have personally found with my clients that trauma responses sometimes remain, even after thoroughly processing their grief, and so I treat their trauma symptoms separately. I personally use the EMDR method, and that stands for eye movement desensitization and reprogramming. That's quite a mouthful, so we just call it EMDR most of the time. EMDR treatment has proven to be very reliable and very helpful for my clients. If you seem to be healing from your loss, but still find yourself struggling with post-traumatic symptoms, there's a good chance that a well-trained and experienced EMDR therapist can help you overcome those symptoms. I know from personal experience that such treatment can be very helpful. Okay, I'm going to wrap up this episode in the next couple of minutes, so here are the takeaway points from the episode. First, traumatic experiences that accompany the loss of a loved one are not uncommon. Post-traumatic symptoms are also not uncommon and may require additional professional help beyond grieving your loss. Finally, experiencing post-traumatic symptoms does not necessarily mean that you should be diagnosed with PTSD. And if you're concerned about your mental and emotional health for any reason, it's a good idea to seek professional help. And as always, I want to leave you with a stepping stone towards healing. Please spend at least a few minutes of your time reviewing your recent experiences. Do any of the trauma symptoms and/or any experiences I shared with you sound familiar? If you have trauma symptoms, Are you distressed by those symptoms? And do you want to overcome them? If so, consider reaching out to a mental health professional to address your experience. And then finally, a reflection for you to think about. Here's what I wrote for today. Our minds are wonderful creations that allow us to feel passion, joy, wonder, and experience beauty. But our minds can also torment us with painful memories, unresolved issues, and rob us of peace and joy. There are gifted healers who can help you with the hell your mind sometimes retains or creates. And by the way, asking for help is a sign of health, not weakness. Well, thank you for watching this episode. I encourage you to look for more episodes on this topic of grief and mental health. I also look forward to speaking with you soon. And in the meantime, be well.